Record. So recording in progress. Okay, so we are going to take a look at ports and services, and then that would be the last thing we are looking at. Then tomorrow, Saudi National Day, and then on Sunday, we have our first day of the boot camp. This is just pre-boot camp, and that would be amazing. So we are going to take a look at ports and services, and at the end of this lecture, you are going to understand what a port and service is, know the categories of ports, and then know the services attached to the well-known ports. All right, so a port is a virtual point where network connections start and end. So ports are software-based and managed by a computer's operating system. Each port is associated with a specific process or service, which could be a server. All right. So ports actually allow computers to easily differentiate between what kinds of traffic they should accept, right? So if it's an email, even though it's coming to your computer has to decide who is going to manage the emails. If it's a song or an audio file, your computer has to decide who is going to manage those audio files. The fact that your computer is receiving these different types of traffic does not mean that they are all going to the same place for processing. It has to be processed in a certain way by a certain group of people. Okay, assuming you want to make your own coffee, right? You need to have the coffee bean, which is that thing that they use for the coffee, right? And now that you have your coffee, you need to put it through a coffee making machine so that it crashes it and then you get what you want to get, right? That means to make coffee, it needs to go through a particular machine to get the results that you need. The same way, if you need to make a new thobe, I think that's what it's called, the white attar, it's called thobe, right? Can you confirm in the chat? Can anyone spell it for me? Because I always I have no idea how it's spelled. All I know is the sound. Thobe. Can anyone spell it in the chat? Thobe. All right, waiting on the spelling. Thobe. Okay. Wow. If you had left me, I would have said it's THAUB. So this is great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mariam, Gassan, Shadin, and then Abra. So if you want to make a thobe, right, no matter, even if you have the material for it, it needs to go to a designer or a seamstress or a tailor to sort of do the alignments and everything to get the end result. If you want to make a thobe, you can't go and give the materials to a fisherman to process it. You can't give the materials to a cybersecurity person like me to make the thobe for you. You would mostly take it to a particular person to make the thobe. So the same way, whenever information comes to your computer, in as much as you are receiving songs, receiving videos, receiving emails, receiving website pages, they all have specific places they are processed. And that is where ports come in. So ports are a virtual point where network connections start and end. So each port has a port number. I would have loved to draw today, but I think Mr. Somi did like a nice presentation with the drawing and everything. So I'm now a bit shy to draw again because he has raised the bar. So today I'll try as much as possible not to draw. I'll keep my drawings to myself. And yeah, I know I can be Picasso sometimes, but yeah, I'll keep my shame. All right. So this is how ports work, okay? So for example, yeah, Saleh, Gasana, Bra, Hanadi, Maram, all those laughing. I think the next time I have to do something like this, I would make you all be the ones to draw for me. So if I need a human head, maybe Hanadi will draw the head, maybe Mohammed will draw the legs so that we see your skills, because it looks like you are all in a good mood to tease me. So regarding ports, right, it's just like a house, right? So assume that you have a big house, and then in the house there are several rooms, all right? And in each room we have a specific language that is being taught, right? So can you put in the chat what languages you are interested in learning? Anyone? besides, I think most of you know Arabic, you know English. What other language do you like to learn? Spanish by Mohammed. Any other person? Spanish again. Okay, by Shadin. Any other? Why? Wait. What's with you all in Spanish? Like, is there a secret I don't know about? Can someone tell me? Is there a secret about Spanish I don't know about? Because any other person, because I need like 3 languages. Like any other person that likes a different language, can you put it in the chat? Italian, French. Excusez-moi. I think I know some French. Excusez-moi. Comment tu t'appelles? Ça va très bien. Ah, I'm too good. Then there is Turkish. Okay, I don't know lots about that. There's Turkish. There's what's V60? Mohammed, what's V60? Abdullah says Japanese. I think Japanese, I know one word, arigato. I think from the only one anime I've watched in my life. There's Turkish again. Good. So, all right. So we have French, we have Italian, we have Turkish, we have Spanish, and then we have Japanese. So we are going to pick these 5: French, Italian, Turkish, Japanese. V60 is a type of coffee. Oh, I did not know that. I actually do not. I've actually never really tasted proper coffee before. I think I've tasted it twice, and I didn't like it. So black coffee. Oh wow, that's nice. Never knew. So that's wait. So is Mohammed trying to tell me that he wants to like V60 is a so I'm trying to get why Mohammed mentioned black coffee because I was asking about languages. So Mohammed, so how does the coffee fit our languages? I'm trying to understand. Is there a new language for coffee? Anyway, let's see if I can annotate here directly. Right. Today I'm doing it directly on the slide, so pardon me. I'm trying as much as possible not to do this, but no matter what I do, we still need it. So let's see. Right. So we have a big compound, and then in the compound, we have different rooms, right? There's a big house. And in the house, we have different rooms. I think we had 5 languages. So let me make these 5. Okay, it's so hard to draw with my mouse today. Oh, wow. That looks great. I love it. So we have Spanish, right, which is an S. We have Italian, which is an I. Wow. And then we had Turkish, right, which is a T. And then what else? French. Oh. We had French. Oh. And then, yes, Japanese, J. Thank you, Hanadi and Abra. So we had Japanese. Ooh, great. Now this should be a house. Perfect. No, we don't need a gate straight. All right. So in this house, there's Spanish. In this house, there are several rooms, and in each room, they are teaching Spanish. There are Italian, French, Turkish, and then Japanese. All right. So if you want to learn any of the languages, you first of all have to enter the house, right? Through this door. Ooh. I don't know. I'm mostly proud about my art, but today the pride is gone. Okay, that's good. Right. So if you want to learn any language, you first of all have to enter the house, right? Then now, if you want to learn Italian, you might have to go to this room. If you want to learn Japanese, you have to go this room. Now, if you want to learn Japanese, right? And then you go to this room, would you be able to understand what they'll be saying? I need some responses in the chat. No, exactly, because you have ended up in the wrong room. So you may be there, but you're not going to understand anything. I once joined a meeting, I think a while ago, and then the meeting was in English, right? But then the lady that was speaking had, I think she was I think British. So her accent was very hard to hear or to understand, and she was speaking very fast. So she keeps speaking, and I'm in the meeting and I'm nodding, but absolutely I heard nothing. So you could be in a room that is teaching a different language, but you could actually hear nothing, right? So in the same way, right, So many people will decide to get into the house. So let's pick a few people. So we have Walid here, who wants to get into the house. We have Abra, picking just 3 people again. And then we have Hanadi, that's 3. Right? Walid is a guy, right? Is Walid a guy? Just confirm, Walid. Yes. And Abra is a guy or female? Okay, Abra is female because of the picture. And then Hanadi is also female. Thank you very much. Good. So, because I'll be using him and her, and I don't want to mess things up. Thank you very much. So now Walid wants to learn a language. He wants to learn. Walid, what language do you want to learn? Can you put it in the chat? Japanese. So I'm going to put your J right under it. Abra, what language do you want to learn? French. So I'm going to put your F here. Hanadi, you know you're next. Let me have it. T, Turkish. Perfect. So now Walid wants to learn Walid, Abra, Hanadi. So Walid wants to learn Japanese and he has to go to this room. Abra, French, that room. Hanadi, Turkish, that room. So none of them is going upstairs, right? So in this case, right, if Walid enters the Italian room, clearly whatever he sends cannot be processed because it doesn't make sense to them. Walid will be trying to speak Japanese because he wants to learn that, and the people in the room are speaking Italian. So there would not be a proper connection, right? In this case, we say that we won't be able to process whatever, like communication will not even be complete in that way. Good. So in the same way, we have ports, right? And we are saying that port is a virtual point or a logical point on a computer. So the house is the computer, right? And it's on a network. So within that house, there are several rooms, and those rooms are the ports. So this is the computer. The whole house is a computer. The rooms within which we are going to learn the languages is the same as ports. So there is a port that is only used for Spanish. There's a port that can only process Italian. Same way, right? And then each port has a number. So for example, if you want to go into the room named, if you want to go into the room where they are learning Spanish, right? We might say, okay, room for Spanish is room number 21. Room for Italian is room number 25. You get the idea. Room number Turkish will be room number 80. Wow, flawless. And then French would be, let's say, room number 443. I know the numbers are so strange because they are not following each other, but there's a reason why I'm doing this. I would explain it later. And then J, there's 21, 25, 80, and then I think DNS, that'll be 53. Ignore the DNS I just said. I'm thinking out loud. Perfect. So every port has a number, and that is how the computer is able to decide, right? It's just like a room number. If you go to a hotel, you are given a room number. So you know that, okay, my room is room number 7. You would never use your key card on room number 20, right? The same way. So every room has a number, and that is how the computer is able to decide that, okay, if information is coming in, if Walid is coming in here, the receptionist at the door, yesterday, our receptionist was Mohammed. Today, we need a different receptionist. Wow, looking good. I think who will be our receptionist? We need one person to volunteer in the chat. Who will be our receptionist today? Person who sits at the reception. When you come in, the person will interview you, tell you, hey, what do you want? You want this? Okay, go to room number 21. I need someone in the chat to volunteer to be our receptionist, what Mohammed did yesterday. Anyone? Anyone? Hello, no receptionist today. So Lama, thank you very much, Lama. So Lama will be our receptionist for the day, right? And a receptionist are the people who, when you go to a hotel, they are sitting, at the reception, and then you pay your money, or you tell them I have a reservation, then they give you the key card and everything. So Lama is that person. So Lama, male or female? Can you help me out, please? Female. Okay, thank you very much. So now Lama is the receptionist. So if Walid comes in, Lama is going to ask, Walid, who are you looking for? And then Walid will be like, I'm here to learn Japanese. Then what room number would Lama give to Walid to go and learn Japanese? 53. Perfect. Good. Oh, Wad wrote in Arabic. Wad, can you be changing that to English next time? So yeah, I think, yeah, the only number I know in Arabic is Mio Seta Seti is printed here because I met it one time. So 53, 53, 53, 53. Good. So that means that Wali would go into this room, right? Now, if Abra, who is here to learn French, goes to the reception, Lama is going to ask Abra, what are you here for? And Abra will say, I'm here to learn French. So what room would Abra be directed to? 443. 443. That's perfect. I think that is direct. So pass here and get here. Arrow. Arrow. Now, if Hanan, was it Hanan or Hanadi? Yes, Hanadi. Good. So if Hanadi gets the receptionist, Hanadi, what do you want to learn? I want to learn Turkish. What room would Hanadi be directed to by Lama? Good. 80. Perfect. So this is how the computer operates in terms of ports, right? So based on whatever you are coming in for, in as much as the computer is accepting data, as like, oh, today's videos, today's audios, today's whatever it is, there's always a particular port that information would be routed to. So the information comes in there, the computer will be like a receptionist and say, okay, what are you here for? Okay, you are bringing music. Okay, go to that room. What are you here for? You're bringing audio. Okay, go to that room. Okay, what are you here for? I'm here to bring videos. Oh, no, I'm here to bring emails. Go to that room. So that is how the computer operates, and it fits our hotel scenario, where you could learn any language you want, but then you need to go to a specific room to learn that language. Now, however, the language that is being taught in the specific room, like for this, right, the Turkish, right, the service that is running there is actually Turkish, right? Whatever they are doing there is to process the Turkish language, right? But however, there is a particular version of Turkish language that they are learning. Maybe the Turkish language has been changing every year. So in 2022, they will only be learning Turkish language version 2022. You get the idea? So that would be the particular service that is running. So the port is always for Turkish. But however, the specific type of Turkish they are running is a bit different. The same way with Japanese, maybe they feel like the 2022 version has too many changes. So they would rather teach the 1999 version. So then that means the Japanese room, the service that is running there, or the type of Japanese that is running there is 1999. So that is what the service means from the start. So each port is associated with a specific process or service. So we are running the process all right. We are running Japanese all right, but then the type of Japanese we are running would be different. And we would get to understand these things later in the course, where we start talking about versions of software, how to get in there, finding vulnerabilities and all that, okay? So the port numbers are very important. And then the type of service they are doing is very important. But however, the versions would always vary. So moving on to, just a second. So moving on to the next one, port categories. So we have 3 different types of ports. I'm going to clear my drawing. So we have 3 different types. Who is the receptionist in a computer system? Yes, so that is a very great question. That is a very great question. Who is the receptionist in a computer system? So every computer has a network adapter, right? And that is great. Can anyone help answer this question? Because I've never actually thought about this, that who would be the receptionist on the computer system? Because that particular thing would be what would sort of route the information where it needs to go. Can anyone help answer this question? Anybody to answer Asia's question? Hello, my people. Can anyone help answer Asia's question? Who is a receptionist on the computer system? So, for example, sometimes it could just be that the CPU, okay, someone said the CPU, which is possible, but the CPU does not really deal with the network because it only wants to calculate things. CPU is like, give me something to calculate. That's what it does. But then at this point, we are talking about just the reception, the network. So if we were talking about regular processing, that would be fine. But then at this point, we want to, yes, the OS, that is also possible. So this is what happens. So most of the time, the computer is on a network, right? The computer is already on a network. That's the only way you can receive data coming in and out, right? So there's always a device on the network that would route the information. We call it routing, right? And yesterday, exactly, Nada says router. That is very good. So the CPU makes sense if we are not talking about the network, right? But in this case, we are talking about the network, so that would not. It's a good answer, but then in this case, it's a bit different, okay? So in this case, whenever information is coming into the network, because maybe we are all connected to a hotspot, right? Once we are connected to the hotspot, whatever information is coming in, that information already is telling us where it is coming from, which is the source is Diamond. So Mohammed is getting technical a bit. Abdullah is also getting there. That is very perfect. So whenever information is coming in, right, that information which is coming through your network is called a packet, right? And then that packet has information like the source IP address, where it is coming from, the destination IP address, and sometimes the destination port, which port the information has to go to, which is literally what door number. So before the information comes in, it already has the information of which door number it's looking for. So once it gets onto the network, which is the router, or probably the device that will act as the router at that point. Sometimes it could be a network card, but routers are very good at that, and we call that IP routing. So it is going to route that information. Okay, go to computer number 17, which has IP address of this, that, and then deliver this information to the port number maybe 80, which is for French, I think. So once it gets to the computer, it's already going to port number 80 because, as we said earlier, ports are virtual points where network connections start and end. So these are virtual points on your computer that only your computer understands. So it comes through the network card. Network card already knows where this information has to go. But it is the router that would mostly route the information or direct the information to where it has to go. Is that clear? So Mohammed went a bit technical, went too deep, which I don't want to go into that angle. So yes, that's fantastic. So the daemon is actually good, and that can actually be the answer, but we don't want to step into those waters yet. We want to just be at the surface, because that is the goal of the pre-boot camp. All right. So the port numbers will make it possible to distinguish between the different services. And then the job of the service is to manipulate the data, right? So moving on, we have different port categories, and there are three. There's the well-known port, which is basically mostly used in daily operations. And for my drawing, I should have saved it, but I left it. So there is port 80, there is port 80, 443, 21. They all have what they do. These are like the door numbers, right? And these are mostly used by standard server processes, something like FTP, which is for files. We'll take a look at that shortly. All of these have specific ports and they never change, as in specific numbers, and they never change. Then the next thing would be registered ports. So registered ports are not well known, which is the first one, but then they are used by vendors for their own server applications. So for example, if all of you know about Adobe, right? Adobe, the company that does Adobe Reader, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop. You know them, Adobe. Good. So if Adobe, which is a vendor, right? They sell hardware, they sell software. Now, Adobe can decide that whenever anyone wants to use Adobe Reader, the PDF one, whenever anyone wants to use Adobe Acrobat Reader, they have to use maybe port number, let's say 5,000. So no matter the computer that you install Adobe on, once Adobe finishes installing, it will tell the operating system that for my software that I have just installed, whenever anyone wants to send me information or I want to send out information, please allow me to use port number 5,000. So it would be registered for Adobe. And these are registered by the international organizations where a vendor could go to register their ports so that no one uses those ports. But as a user, you can actually decide what port as a network administrator, you can decide what port to use, and at any time and at any point that you want. You have that freedom and liberty to do that, right? So the well-known ports already are already set, whether you have that particular software installed or not, they're already set. Immediately the software is installed, it would be used, and it goes from 1 to 1023. But then on your computers, there are actually 65,535 ports on your computers. So we all know that each laptop has a port for USB, has a port for SD card, has a port for HDMI. These are physical ports, right? But then the ports we are talking about here, they are virtual ports or logical ports, meaning you can't see them, but then they exist in the operating system for network operations. So your computer, your laptop, your desktop, whatever you are using has 65,535 ports right now. You just don't use them or you just don't see them, but they exist, right? For you to even receive a file on your phone, that means a particular port is actually working on your phone. I hope you're getting the whole idea. Good. Are you getting the idea, please? Can you let me know in the chat? So from registered ports, then the last type of ports we have are dynamic ports, and these range for port number 49,152 to 65,535. And these are free ports that are available for any TCP or UDP request made by an application. So you could install FIFA today, and if FIFA, those who play FIFA, right? If FIFA has not registered that port, that means FIFA may decide to use this, right? If I'm creating an application on my phone and I need to use need to set a dedicated port, I could use one of the dynamic ports. So this looks like a hierarchy. They are the well-known ports used for daily operations. They are the registered ports used by vendors for the applications. Adobe could do that. Can be used in printers. Yes. So the printer's port could actually be, most of the time, it would be a registered port, right? There are general printer ports that could exist between 1 to 1023, but then most vendors, right? Because a printer vendor could decide, okay, I'm HP, I've created my own printer, and I want to be using maybe port number 2000 for mine. So printers also use these ports. Yes, that's actually accurate. So that is if the printer is connected to a network, because yes, of course, printers connected to a network. So yes, Nujud, you're actually accurate on that. So well-known ports are assigned to standard server processes like FTP. Registered ports are not assigned or controlled by the OS, but then it can be registered by the vendor with international organizations so that's to prevent duplication or some other ports trying to use it. Then the dynamic ports, these we mostly call them temporary ports because they are not assigned and they can't be controlled by the OS and they're also not registered. So it is up to you, the user, you and I, to set up these ports, right? So these are some of the well-known ports available. And, excuse me, so we have port 20 or 21, which is FTP, right? There are lots, and I'm dealing with, and as I said, well-known ports are from port 1 to port 1023. So I'm dealing with just a few of them. I don't want to go deep because I had two diagrams. I had to take one out because, and there's the thing, you don't need to know these ports off head. You don't need to know that. You don't need to wake up and know port 20 is for this, 21 is for this. No, we don't expect you to do that. Probably after this class, you may actually remember just one port. But you only get to know these ports the more you work with these ports. That is the funny thing. So if we are trying to, secure the FTP port 21, that means you have engaged with that port. So the more you try working with FTP port 21, it will be stuck in your head that, okay, this is for FTP, this is number 21. If you are doing internet services, you know that will always be port 18. So the more you work around these ports, whether the ethical hacking sections, whether any other part of this curriculum, even after the bootcamp, the more you work with ports, the more you will remember them. But you are not expected to know all ports off head. Okay. So that is absolutely okay. I remember when I was about to write my CEH by EC Council, I think that was 2 weeks ago. And I had the voucher to write the exam like a year ago. And I was actually afraid, honestly. So I was like, nah, I don't want to fail this because it's actually expensive. And if I fail, I don't think I'll have the confidence to do it again because the exams is a bit tricky. So I threw everything away, did not touch it. And then 1 year later, I received a message that in 2 weeks, my exam voucher is going to expire. And that is why I woke up. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So I started becoming very active with it. No matter what happens, I need to take this seriously. And one of the things that I got to after learning the whole thing, doing questions and everything, I got to a point where I need to remember certain ports. And then that was the only time that I could say that, oh, I sat down and tried to remember the ports and then the names because I was about to do an exam. But outside of that, I never wasted my time trying to remember the ports and the numbers. If I'm trying to do penetration testing and I see them, I remember, oh, this is for this port. But now I had to remember certain ports that were beyond port 1024. So that is an experience where I had to cram or try to get all these things in my mind. Like I need to know these things off it. So these ports, you have to know them as time goes on, and there's no pressure on you to try and cram them in your mind. All right. So port 21 is for FTP, and FTP is for data transfer. So data could be files, it could be videos, it could be audios, it could be images. These fall under FTP, which is the file transfer protocol. So whenever you send a video through WhatsApp to someone, right? When your phone receives it, your phone will say, okay, a message has come in, but then I can't process it. So FTP, come in here, there's a file, come and take it and store it on the phone for me. So that's the job of FTP. It deals with the files. In as much as it's coming to the phone or coming to your laptop, there is a port that can only handle files. HTTP will not be able to handle the file. It would only accept the traffic and then push it to where it has to go. So that is the idea about these. Now, is there anyone who has encountered some of these ports before? Give me a yes in the chat. Have you encountered any of these ports before? I think we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 10 ports on the screen. Anyone encountered any ports? Let me know in the chats. Hello, are you here, my people? Yep, Secure Shell. Yes, okay, that's great. Walid has met Secure Shell before. Abra 2 yes, okay, that's good. So moving on, SSH, which is Secure Shell, the one Wahid mentioned. Ohutu says yes. The one Walid, sorry. So the one Walid mentioned, SSH, which is Secure Shell, it is for safe network communications. If I want to connect to your computer directly to do stuff on it, I can use SSH, which is always port 22. Telnet is for logging in remotely, and that is port 23. Now, port 25, which is SMTP, is a simple mail transfer protocol. And that is only for email routing. So at any point in time, if I want to communicate through email, you know that port 25 on your system is going to move the email to where it has to go to. So the same way with the rooms where we were learning the languages. Assuming you want to send an email and then we send your traffic to port 21. Will port 21 be able to process emails? Let me know, true or false. Will port 21 be able to process emails? Yes or no in the chats? No, yes, it won't. Yes, no, sorry. I mean, I agree that it is no. That's what I mean. I agree that it's no. Yes, it won't. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So moving on, then there's DNS, domain name server, which will map an IP address to domain names. We'll look at it shortly. Then 67 and 68, DHCP, Dynamic Host Control Protocol. So DHCP is actually for automatically assigning an IP address. So, sorry, it's dynamic host configuration protocol, not control. So DHCP, yes, SMTP wall, Hassan, that's correct. That's my previous question. So when you connect to any network, Wi-Fi, anything else, you are automatically given an IP address. For certain networks, the administrator would give a static IP address, meaning that it doesn't change. Everyone has the IP address. But if the router is using DHCP, then immediately you connect. Sometimes even our phones can do DHCP. So if you have a hotspot, it would actually assign you an IP address, which would uniquely identify you on the network. If you leave the network and you come back 2 days later, you won't get that same IP address. You'll be given a different one. Okay, so now HTTP is port 80, and that is used on the World Wide Web. Sorry, that's the World Wide Web. So this is what port 80 or 8080 does. Whenever you enter google.com on your website, on your browser, right, you receive a web page. So that is the job of port 80. It is able to request web documents or web pages and then also receive web pages. That's the job of port 80 and 8080. And then there's port 88, which is Kerberos, and that is an authentication service on Windows systems. Now, POP3 is on 110, and it retrieves emails from a server. After that, it will delete it. So if you want to retrieve or get email from somewhere, you need to use POP3. Now, if you want to route the email, meaning if you want to move the email to a particular, so for example, if I have 10 people, I have 10 emails on my network, right? And then I receive an email for the first person, the SMTP would be able to send that email to the first person and not send it to the last person who is not supposed to be the recipient. So that's the job. It routes the email. It's like a traffic director, right? Those who stand in the traffic and say, go left, go right. That's what the SMTP does, email routing. Then the last one is HTTPS. Now, HTTPS is the secure version of port 80. Because port 80 has no security. It's very naked, and I'll explain that later. It has no security, very raw, and I think there are certain sites you visit and you see that it doesn't have that security. So that's port 443. Now you will notice that some of them have 2 ports. For example, 67, right? DHCP has 67 and 68. Whenever you see this, it means that one type of port uses TCP, the other uses UDP. For whatever reason it was to use the UDP for, we won't go into that. But sometimes that is the reason. And for this 80 and 8080, that is not the reason. It means that it could either use 80 or 8080, depending on the configuration that is set by the administrator. Right. Now, moving on. Now we are going to look at about 3 different protocols, and then we are done for today. So the first protocol we are looking at is the file transfer protocol. Now, the file transfer protocol is actually involves the transfer of files between devices over a network. Just a second, I'm moving something on my screen and it's not moving. How do I get to? Anyway, if it's not going to move, it's fine. So we have the file transfer protocol, and its job, I think I've explained this earlier. So whenever you want to send a file to someone, right? As you can see, there's the FTP client on the left, there's the FTP server, then there is the FTP client on the right. So file transfer protocols mostly use a client-server approach, meaning that information is being shared from the client, which is your computers, to a particular server. Or there would be a central point where this information has to go before we cannot access it. So for example, on your phones, you might have an FTP server on it, but you don't know. It might be existing. So if someone wants to send information from one WhatsApp phone to me, right? When they send the information, the FTP server on my phone would receive that file so that the WhatsApp app on my phone can access it from the FTP server, which exists on my phone. Does that make sense, please? If 2 people want to communicate through WhatsApp, the first person, let's say Mohammed wants to send me a WhatsApp message, which is an image, right? He's going to send that image to my phone. And then because port 21 on my phone is open, port 21 is the one that deals with the images. So port 21 is going to receive this image. and then it would process it so that the WhatsApp app on my phone can use that image or have access to it. So that is where the server comes in. So we have file from this side, file from the FTP client, which is one phone, goes to the server so that the other one, on the other hand, can also access it. Now, there are two types of logins modes permitted by FTP, and it is not secure. So there are two types of communication, there are two types of logins permitted. And the first one is where FTP will ask you for a username and a password. And then the second one is where you don't need to provide a username and a password. All you can say is that your username is anonymous and your password is your email, and it would log you in. And that makes it vulnerable. So these are mostly, all these anonymous, we call that the anonymous login, and it needs to be disabled on every single server. But some people forget to disable this, and then it's stuck. And a report showed that I think there were, as of 2016, there were 750,000 anonymous FTP servers connected to the internet. When I say anonymous, I mean that the example I just gave, you don't need to put in a username and password when you're asked to log in. You can just say your username is anonymous and a password. You can put in any email you want and it would log you in. It's like a vulnerability that exists in FTP. So since that vulnerability exists, and the 750,000 is just a report that came out and is not confirmed, but that is the information. So FTP on its own may not be secure. And that's why in recent years, we have SSL, we have HTTPS, we have FTP, we even have FTPS now, which has secure at the end, in order to provide more security for FTP. Now, the next thing we are looking at is the domain name server. And who has heard of a domain name server before? DNS. DNS. So DNS, yes, Abra has heard it before. Any other person? Fatima has heard it before. Perfect. Any other person that has heard of DNS before? Walid, Mohammed, same thing. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Wad 2 has heard of it before. Maram 2, Ohud. Perfect. Maha. I love the way you guys respond because it makes me, it boosts me. I know. Besides when I draw, where you still boost me regardless, I like the way you boost me during lectures. That's really good. So the DNS, it's simply a database that contains name to IP mappings that can be queried by a DNS-aware application. Shadin Rawan Maha, thank you very much. So with a DNS, right? A DNS mostly contains name to IP mappings, and I'm going to show that here. Let's see, we have a box. Trying to draw, and it's not allowing me. I don't know. Looks like it's mad at me today. So allow me, please. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today looks like we might not draw again because it's not allowing the drawings. Let's see the last one. All right, so since it's not working, let's move on. All right, so for example, whenever you want to, you remember the drawing from yesterday where we talked about the MAC address and the switches. Who remembers that? The MAC address and the switches. Who remembers that from yesterday? Where we drew a table where we said your MAC address is here, your computer name is here, and sometimes even your port number. So whenever I want to send information to another person, Abdullah remembers that, Abra remembers, good, perfect. So the same way with a DNS, that is what a DNS does. So every domain name on the internet, right? A domain name is literally a website name. Google.com is called a domain, is the domain name. Wow, I can't remember any websites right now. Good. YouTube.com is a domain name. So can you give me several domain names that you know through the chats? Anybody? Any domain names you can think of, just put it. Facebook.com is a domain name. Yes, I need more. Mohammed says Facebook. Google.com. Nada says Google.com. Any other? Apple.com is a domain name. Okay, so now we have Instagram.com, we have Tesla.com, we have lots of them. Twitter.com. I love Twitter a lot. I love Twitter. If I'm not working, I'm on Twitter. And I'm anonymous too. I mean, my account is mostly like a hidden, like a burner account, so nobody knows me. So I think the only way to enjoy Twitter is to be hidden like that and then just see things and enjoy. So news.com, good. So all these are domain names, right? And these are easy for humans to remember. But however, for computers, which literally deal with zeros and ones, as Mr. Some showed us earlier, right? Codingdojo.com from Ohud. That is it. I'm actually surprised none of you brought up codingdojo.com. Ohud, thank you very much. None of you brought that up. I'm very, very sad. None of you thought about codingdojo.com except Ohud. So I think Ohud gets to have like a free donut by Lloyd on Sunday, because I think Sunday there will be lots of donuts. So Ohud, you get an extra, right? Thank you very much. So back to our description. So computers understand zeros and ones, and computers or networking device mostly use IP addresses, which we have all seen before, right? So whenever I put in google.com, my computer does not understand what google.com is. So then there has to be a way for my computer to know what is google.com, what is codingdojo.com. Humans can't also save IP addresses for all, exactly. So as a human, if I ask you what is the IP address your phone has right now, you would never know it. If I ask you what's the IP address of google.com, you would never know it. But then computers always know what an IP address is. So I'm going to, how do I get this on the screen? Just a second. Trying to get my terminal up. Terminal, new window. Oh, what is happening? So clear our drawings. Just a second. Okay. All of a sudden, my mouse. Wow, things are not thinking. That is strange. I'm trying to show how I'm going to get my IP address. Wow. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let us continue, because it looks like my computer is not in the mood. You know, computers, like, has anyone experienced that before? That whenever you want to show someone something on your computer, then it starts to misbehave. Has anyone experienced that before? On the day where you need your computer to be like the most obedient, that is the day it decides that no, not today, not on my watch. So yes, Abdullah, you have experienced that before. Abra, yes. I was trying to pull up my terminal and then just ping google.com so we could get the IP address, but I think it decided otherwise. So, and when they decide that today is not the day they are going to help you, you have to give up very early, because the more you wait, the more it will disappoint you. All right, so computers do not remember. Good. So Mohammed has given us, wow, Mohammed, you are going ahead of us. Mohammed, please take your time. But I like it. This was what I was going to do. So Mohammed has done it. So Mohammed, extra donut for you. So it looks like the extra donuts, yeah, they are going fast. Thank you, Mohammed. So computers do not understand the google.com, so then they have to use IP addresses, right? Because every website has an assigned IP address to it. So due to that, whenever I put in google.com on my computer has to ask someone that, hey, the user of this computer wants to know what google.com's IP address is, but I don't know where they are and I don't know who it is. So can you help me out? Then that someone would respond and say, oh, is it google.com? This is the IP address of google.com, or this is the house address of google.com. Then my computer will say, thank you very much, someone. Then it would now say, okay, so you asked me for google.com. I know where he is. I'm going to get him for you. That is the whole thing. So an IP address at this point is like a house address, right? So whenever you put in these things, the computer will go and ask this someone, what is the house address of google.com, and then that someone will provide it. Then your computer now has the house address and will be able to go there. So the same way, this someone is the DNS. That is its job. It has, whenever you put in the IP address or whenever you put in the domain name, it is able to resolve it or convert it or get you the IP address associated with that domain name. So as Mohammed did, if I put in codingdojo.com, my computer will send that request to the DNS server, and then the DNS server would respond back to my computer that this is the IP address of Coding Dojo, which is in the chat for those of you who have seen it, 52.35.131 or 229. Then my computer now can go on the internet and then just say, I'm looking for someone who is, I'm looking for codingdojo.com, and this is the address, so take me there. So every router will just be routing them. So they get to the destination and then responds back to me with the website. So the same way, from the example on the screen, my computer is going to ask, what is the IP address of google.com? Then the DNS would respond, the IP address of google.com is 172 blah, 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 blah to the end. Sorry, I'm using blah, blah, blah. I don't want to say everything out. Then so that is the response from the DNS. Then my computer would now go on the internet and say, send me the content of 172, which is the IP address of google.com, to the internet. Then the internet will respond back that here it is, which will be the website. So this really makes it easy, but then the DNS does not exist on your device, right? It's very rare for your phones to have a DNS. So most of the time, the DNS will be owned by your internet service provider, wherever you are getting your data from. Even if I create a hotspot and you all connect to the hotspot, the DNS is not coming from me. It is coming from my internet service provider or whoever is giving me the internet, maybe my telecommunications network. It could be Vodafone, it could be O2, it could be Verizon, it could be Airtel, it could be any of them. So they have their DNS. But as a user, you could also change your own DNS. I think they mostly say if you want your internet to be fast, change your DNS to Google's server. And that is the best, Google's DNS, which is 8.8.8.8, which, yeah, I think some of you might know that already. Now, the next thing we are looking at, which is the last but one thing we are looking at, is HTTP, which is on port 80. Now, HTTP means the Hypertext Transmission Protocol, and HTTP is a TCP/IP-based communication protocol, and it is used to deliver data, HTML file, which is HTML files, image files, query results, and etc. on the World Wide Web. I don't know why I miss this word all the time. The World Wide Web. It plays on the tongue a bit. So it is a client-server protocol, meaning that just like the example we did with the DNS, right? Same with HTTP. If I want to know, if I want to do an HTTP request, I send it to a server, which will be my web server, and then the web server would respond. So in this case, you remember this, right? So this communication could be between my computer and an HTTP server or a web server somewhere on the internet, because I'm going directly. It could be the internet or directly to Coding Dojo to give me the response I need. So that is what an HTTP server does, or a web server. But then the issue with HTTP is that it has no security. So anything you are sending, you know, when you go to a website and you check the address section, you will see HTTP, and then if it's not secure, Google Chrome would put a padlock there and then cross it out. Have you seen that thing before? Where when you visit a website, you see a padlock right beside the address. Yes. So that when you see the padlock there, it means that the website is secure. If you don't see the padlock, it means that the website is using HTTP and not HTTPS, which means that even if you log in on that website, everything you are sending is absolutely naked. And when I say naked, it means that it is not protected at all. So anyone on the internet could actually see what you are sending and just pick it out. So from there, once again, HTTP is used to deliver data, which is HTML files. HTML is the website pages you are seeing, image files, query results, etc. However, when these results return, your machine or your computer will decide which of the ports will deal with them. So image files will go to which ports? Can anyone tell me where image files will be sent to? Is it port 25? Is it port 21? What is the name of the port or the service that would handle image files? We've talked about it earlier. FTP. Thank you, Mohammed. So that's the FTP. So that's the idea I want you all to have. In as much as HTTP is, in as much as it's HTTP that would receive the full traffic, but then it would be dealing, it would be going to the specifics. Now, our last slide, and then we are done for the day. I think I've exceeded. Okay, still 12. I thought it's 1. So, well, anyways, this is our last slide. So HTTPS is on a different port, which is 443, and it's called the hypertext transfer. No, it's supposed to be transmission protocol. I think I made a mistake. Anyway, but I'll correct it. But then it has secure at the end, which means technically it is secure. Now, it enables a secure communication between a client, which is your web browser, and a server, which is the web server, by using encryption. So this is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. One has encryption or protection, but the other does not have encryption or protection. So in simple terms, it is a secure version of HTTP. That's it. Now, this is a diagram that shows the difference between the two. So whatever you do with HTTP means that it is not protected and it's open for the internet and anyone to see. But if you use HTTPS, the connection between myself and Coding Dojo server is secured, meaning it has been protected by encryption. Now, encryption means that we have sort of made it so hard to understand. So even if a hacker intercepts the communication or intercepts whatever I'm sending from my end to Coding Dojo, he will not be able to understand, he or she will not be able to understand what I've sent, because it would be like a different language. It would be gibberish. It won't make sense because the information has been encrypted. So that is the difference between the two. There are so many services that we cannot talk about, but then we are ending on just these 4. And then the rest of them, as time goes on, we'll find most of them. And that is it for today. And if you have any questions, you could ask them. But then besides that, we are done for today. Tomorrow is a holiday. Have a great day. And yeah, I was going to say take pictures and let us see, but that will not be possible. So anyway, whatever you do, have fun. And yeah, those that are going to enjoy, make sure you enjoy, because from next week, it's all about the action for the bootcamp, right? So are there any questions? If there are no questions, then I would be stopping this in the